Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Can everybody hear me okay? Um, so uh, so our next artist is Nate Duke. And Nate, where are you?
I am in Damascus, Arkansas.
Come here, clown.
Give me that host, yo.
Go for it.
I need to be the host so I can share my screen. Or do I not need to be?
You're already the host.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right, so I read 7 poems from a manuscript that I just finished. Also, thanks for everyone for being here. Jesse and Orlando, y'all are amazing. But yeah, I read them in a greenhouse, so it might be kind of loud. So if you need to, adjust your volume or whatever. So yeah, I read 7 poems, about 14 minutes. Enjoy. Texarkana Apocrypha. There used to be these famous turkey hunters, twin sandy-haired brothers, thick linebacker hands on 20-gauge Benelli guns they saved for and bought with yard money, kept clean and greased all year, so the barrels painted wheatgrass camouflage, never dimmed, who'd go out together each April to the big French Creek tract and split up. One would stalk down on the flock from the north, while the other, having driven around to the south, made a silent lower jaw for a mouthful of feathers closing. At the set time, they'd blow on box calls to drum up hens in spring heat. And more than once, the brothers' touch of kinship was shrapnel met in the expert's zone of a bird heart from both sides. One year, they mistook each other's calls for Tom's. So when the twins shot blind at their prizes rustle in high grass, they died with groans of hunted things. And I know every game and fish office from Nebraska to Florida has some local rendition of this story, but I still remember being a kid, Elsie warning me about those boys crouched in grass, not meaning to hunt one another, cold shotguns pressed to faces, tensed for the kick, wondering if I was brave enough to leap between them in my suit of paper feathers. Apprenticed to the Oregon seismologist after Rimbaud's Voyant letter. I set an orchard ladder's pole in mud, then climbed to pollard fruit trees with oiled loppers. A horrible laborer, I arranged felled limbs as letters in grass to spell cataphract, Newman, isthmus, squib. Richard Sedlock shreds his work pants on a chainsaw, then teaches me to use it. Our sawdust waste bucket turns in compost and we till the garden with new soil. The universal language's horizon distorted by fumes. I'll send what crates of cherries I can. Richard's neighbor gifts me a lump of petrified wood. Jana comes from Eugene to meet in the lot behind Cottage Grove's one bar. Each time she says, "You're so vulgar." I think if what I brought forth from the depths had form, I would bring forth form. Richard shows me his padlocked steamer trunk of letters from ex-lovers. He says the cherry trees have brown rot, but you can still get a harvest if you're quick. We sort filbert nuts, crack them in a Pioneer machine for butter. I eat one blended medlar raw. Beth, Richard's wife, hatchets roosters on a stump. They bring wood to the grate near my futon. If you cut a third of a tree's mass, it goes into shock. I still think everyone nice could be my parents. This next one is about a place in Montana called Prim's Meadow. In Gold Creek Basin, a ponderosa trunk's ochre plates of bark converge with black fault lines we decide smell like cinnamon. I shoulder a blanket, you the flask where gin swishes. Rusting historically, chassis from settler wagons are ragged beds for Montana wheatgrass. Sickle shadow moons pock the ground via an off-center eclipse. The valley otherwise charred. This glade is old-growth miracle. Behind an iron fence of pointy fleur-de-lis, sun-dappled pioneer headstones could be my ancestors' ultimate colony. Leaving, we passed an SUV's worth of dudes spraying trees with semi-automatics. It's national forest land now. A citizen can do whatever he likes there. This is about a summer I spent working as an aquatics director on an island in Montana. Dragonfly eats her weight in time. They cut ice with chainsaws, split their own footing to make way for the barge, sunk chain to dock anchors beneath a frozen lake, sent welders in black neoprene beneath a frozen lake, hitched float pads to the rebar. A kid with a nosebleed clung to the dock, summer's wet jackal, open mouth, frothed with spit and foam and blood. Stop laughing for 1 second, please. On this island, acid seeps from pine roots, turns soil to gray dust. The camp's director won't pay for waste removal via barge, and this is why we burn greased styrofoam behind the mess hall. If the Swan Range foothills burn, and cries of newborn osprey coalesce into clouds of midges, and quartermasters proclaim, in addition to the 9 deer, we have a fox with 2 kids must have crossed over the ice. I walk a shale cairn path to the Firebowl beach. When I stack glacial stones in my left hand and skip them with my right, am I the clay pigeon launcher? Cancel the artillery rehearsal or get some nice rocks. Distant boaters, they'll never leave July. The Eagle Preserve remains off limits. Before the kids show up, I'll dive a great many times, making different columns out of bubbles underwater. Making different pillars out of bubbles. A scherzo of fire, except bubbles. A million paratroopers reverse the invasion. The souls of extinct birds may localize at random. Instructions for guarding your first opaline mountain lake dawn. Paddle the wake of your best swimmer whose name is Adonai. He is undrownable. He laps the island. He will remain ahead of your canoe bow. However, this is not to say it is acceptable to stow the guard tube. Dam technicians drain man-made lakes, bleached effigies of driftwood rot. Still, there is time to stop the maniac before he splices DNA of rainbow trout. Paddle faster. The kid on the dock stares at a bug fresh out of its cocoon. He tells me, I put my shoes around her so nobody would step on her, and now I have to wait till she flies away. So I lay down on the dock to watch this bug grow with a kid, and it starts at like a few millimeters. And this kid is just sitting there telling me all about bugs. I think this is a stormfly, but it's pretty early for them to come up. And we're watching other stormflies crawl up the docks, wriggle out of their cocoons, and the first one, seriously, you could watch its wings grow like a time lapse, and this kid is telling me all about water creatures, and the stormfly's wings kept growing, and it became like a 2-inch long dragonfly over the course of about half an hour, then shuddered, flew off, etc. You can see it on your own. So make it eat some midges. Have it contribute to the gene pool. Lead it toward a final predator. Okay, good. Now do me. Flat Earth anti-pose with ice cream. With a nod to Donald Hall. My aluminum-free deodorant is made of charcoal. Iterative self-perceptions slam into one another with the incongruity of perched hummingbirds. On the otherwise deciduous slope, cedars consolidate the minority vote. My outdoor brain is citronella mush. Pools of dew inside a string lights bulb, they compare small things to other small things. Location agnostic, sunbeams fray. Things are bad now, but hives of black-blue wasps are learning to eat these metal parasols and build perfect houses indestructible, their fluid nerve stems resolute, sped on flickering and silent wings. They'll keep enough of us alive to raise pavilions just for rafters, joist elbows of pine where conic metropoles form. In Montana, Polson girls ride horses to the ice cream shop. Horse tails swish down Polson's empty Main Street. 3 girls on gigantic horses, saddles, bridles, tack, all of it. They are experts. Direct me at once to the Bukowski of Dallas. They'll envy us for our American organization. For example, Dallas is where we stash all of the idiot-looking buildings. And there are more cars in Dallas than shithawks on Uranus. That's the dumbest couplet I've ever written. Maybe that's ever been written. And Dallas, it's all thanks to you. I'm texting and driving because I'm enchanted by the Chiron in my mind that reads out, Mr. Duke died driving in Dallas. Texting a famous poet that bit about Uranus, pretending, of course, that it was a quote from another famous poet. They text back, a day on Mercury is longer than its year. Use that. None of the poems about Dallas end with a surprising yet ineluctable moment of self-realization. Dallas, you're flying overpasses, a clump of my mother's hair on the shower's porcelain. Dallas, I'll make a pretty name for your people like Muscovite, like dalliance, but you'd never appreciate it. Too busy fondling the world's concrete. This is my last poem. Its title is Garish Abstract Stained Glass Birds. The self-policing demographic of my back patio deserves a tax break. The word phlebotomist is microwave butter. The word aperture should be a vandal's snare hid beneath monastic flagstones. Free association puts you squarely in the aesthetic lineage of the president. The word thorax ought to mean some elephant molar, ivory, and brick-like, surely. In metaphors involving skulls as geologic zones, the sinus cavity becomes the aquifer. Morality begins as atmospheric pressure exerted on your zygote. In a ratio akin to urgent car sex, bald statements counter impossible with inevitable. All suburb neighbors' power tools sound like pissing robots. Isn't mortgage death gauge? I rent this ceramic birdhouse, but my adult daughters pay the water bill. Extravagant showers, step stool by the toilet for their knees, incomprehensible geometries. No sound practice of aesthetic or design informs our orientation. It ought to involve more water. If the future's limbless archaeologist dusts nuclear ash from majestic slopes of my propane grill, it may declare ziggurat. Whatever those globular fan things are that spin near crests of subdivision roofs, they are black pumpkins. My friend Colin says hallway thermometer when he means thermostat. Electromagnetic saturation in the troposphere bloats everything except for animals. And if it's just one more allegory on diligence, where the bursting orchards charmed. And if the pronoun in pronouncement, when formal iteration past announcement, is just another iridescent glyph, duplicated perpetually in its linear Ouroboros of light, a fountain's jet in a city with gravity, we could both pretend it stands for thou. Thou. Thank you.